Hey, everyone, and welcome to the Amazing Entrepreneurs Club. I'm glad you're here today for what is going to be a really, really interesting conversation with another amazing entrepreneur. I'm excited to welcome to the show today, Mark Savant. Hey, Mark, how are you?
Yo, Sid, I am fantastic. It's great to be with you here yet again.
Well, thank you. I appreciate it. So, Mark, why don't you introduce yourself and tell our community who you are and what you do?
Sure. Well, I'm excited to be here, Sid. We've gotten a chance to connect in Clubhouse a few times, and I love what you have to say. My name is Mark Savant. I run a digital media agency, and I help business owners create better content in less time and turn that attention into income, quite simply. And I do this in different ways, depending on the client, whether it's consulting or full services. I have a number of clients that I'm producing full-fledged podcasts and YouTube channels for. And that's really what I'm trying to build out now. And I guess a quick story, I never really considered myself as an entrepreneur growing up. I always worked in jobs. A few years ago, though, I was sitting with my grandfather, and when he was still alive, he sits me down next to his easy chair and says, Mark, come over, sit down with me here for a moment. He starts flipping through pages in this big red binder, and he's taking out these newspaper clippings and these photos like, oh, this is the girl I used to date, or this is where I went to college, this is where I coached basketball. And as he's going through his life's memories, I'm thinking to myself, I'm going to be doing this with my grandkids in 30, 40 years. What do I want my binder to look like? Where is my life trending? What's my trajectory? And I said, this isn't lining up. This is not what I want my life to look like. And so that was really, I think, the formative moment that I kind of turned on that entrepreneurial gene, and I'm glad that I did.
That is a great story. Love that it came from your grandfather and his red binder. I think that's really cool. And it's a really great question. What do I want my life to look like? What am I going to tell my kids or my grandkids in 30 or 40, 50 years about my life? So it's a great story. So that kind of gave you the urge to be an entrepreneur.
Yes, it told me that I need to start creating. I need to make a difference. I need to be true to myself. I think it's really easy for us to try to tell ourselves, you know what, it kind of sucks, but you just want to keep going on. Like, this is the plan. Like, you got your college degree, you got the corporate job. This is the plan, stick to the plan. But then when you assess, you're like, this doesn't line up. And so I said, I need to do something. I need to take some control. I need to leave some legacy. Another thing that happened around that same time as well, Sid, was I went to an event. It was a Tony Robbins event. And I went specifically because I knew Gary Vaynerchuk was going to be there. And I love Gary. And he was really kind of inspiring me to be better. And he said something that made so much sense. So he's going on about how basically the phone is the new television, and nobody cares about television. Everyone cares about the phone and creating content there. And it made so much sense. And I'm going to paraphrase because he uses expletives, and I don't know that I want to bring that here, but he said something that made total sense. He said, you got to make more content, expletive. And I said, that's it. And so I started my journey, and I combined a couple of things that I was passionate about. Very passionate about being a great father, about being an awesome dad, about being a parent there. I want to play a meaningful role in my kids' lives. And at the same time, I wanted to take control. I wanted to learn valuable new skills. I wanted to evolve myself, build a business, build streams of income. And so my first really jump in entrepreneurship was creating a podcast and a media show around the Awesome Dad Show, which you can still listen to today.
That's great. The Awesome Dad Show was the first thing. So, and it's still available, so you can go find it. We'll link it into the show notes so people can connect with it there. And I love the message behind it. As someone that has 2 kids myself, I totally understand what that's about, right? And wanting to be sure that we're raising our kids the right way and being part of their lives. Actually, that was part of the catalyst for me leaving corporate America. Was I was traveling. I was a road warrior. I was gone every day, every week, almost every day of the week. And I was missing a lot of their lives. And finally, in their early teenage years, is when I started my business. And now there's so much freedom and so much that I get to do that I never got to do before. But so you started the podcast. What was the next thing that you did?
Yeah. So I started the Awesome Dad Show, started building up a community. And before I even started, I set a goal. I said, I'm just going to produce a show every week for a year, 52 episodes. And at the end, I'm going to see where I'm at, and I'm going to reassess. And so I went through a full year and I reassessed, where am I at? How is the show lining up to towards the goals that I have, right? To have the freedom, to have different sources of income, to be able to see a place that I could leave my 9 to 5 and really go full time. And what I found in that reassessment is that nobody was paying me to teach them how to be a better father, right? You know, I had some odds and ends, some money that was coming in from different influencer deals and stuff like that, but it was nothing that, you know, nothing meaningful. You know, a few $100s here, maybe $1,000 there, but nothing that I could really see the path. So,
Right.
what people were actually paying me for was to help build out their podcast, to help them get their YouTube channel started, to do consulting. And I said, here's the path. This is something that I enjoy doing that's very valuable to the community. And at that point, this was about 2 years ago that this point happened. I said, we need to shift. So I focused all my efforts on creating this media content, not around being an awesome father and about being an awesome dad, but about how to build your digital real estate, right? How to build a presence online, which I believe is the most important asset that we can have moving forward over the next decade. It's your digital presence is what really matters.
So if you're talking, and I love this story, and thank you for sharing it and how you kind of evolved. And I also love the acknowledgement of the fact that your Awesome Dad podcast was doing well, but people weren't paying you to teach them how to be an awesome dad. They were paying you for something else. And as entrepreneurs, I think it's really important that we do pay attention to what our audience is asking for, what they're willing to pay us for, and really make pivots to that place in order to support what it is that they really need. So before we jump into some more questions, I want you to describe for our listeners and for me, your definition of digital real estate.
So digital real estate is your personal brand, basically, right? It's when somebody goes to Google or goes to Facebook, and they search for you or your business, and they type in the name of your personal name or your business, what comes up? Do you show up? Right? Because if you don't show up, you're basically fading into obscurity. You're not going to matter. In you know, I'm old school. I'm like right on the verge of being Gen X and millennial. I'm at the upper end of millennial. So I grew up without smartphones, right? I grew up without Google Maps, right? So I grew up in this kind of age. And so I understand this mentality. I just don't like Facebook. I don't do Facebook. I just want to focus on what's always worked for me. And I just think that's a really dangerous place to be, because the majority of purchasing decisions, I can't remember the exact stats, something like 99% of purchasing decisions, something like that, start online. And it's not going away. Digital media technology is going to be more and more a part of what we do. And I just think it's really important as business owners and as human beings who want to stay relevant in the marketplace, that we're learning how to communicate and build digital real estate.
Yeah, what you just said is so powerful, Mark. And I didn't know the statistic of 99%, but
I just want to say that 80% of statistics are made up. So I might not be exactly there, but it's an obscenely high amount of purchasing decisions.
Well, I had read a statistic that did say that 85% of consumers know who you are, have been to your website, know what they want to buy before they ever make contact with you, before they ever reach out to you. So, and I term that because I work a lot with business owners and business leaders, and my entire career, Mark, was in sales until I became an entrepreneur, which I'm still in sales as an entrepreneur. So, but I term it as seek to be found. We need to work today to seek to be found by our customers, because our customers, where are they? They're online. They're Googling, they're searching. And if you're not showing up, you're missing the opportunity. But more importantly, if you're not controlling the narrative of yourself, someone else is. So you've got to take control of that. And I talk to a lot of people about like the leveraging LinkedIn. I mean, if you're not putting content out there and you're just ghosting, what do people see when you come up? And so it's a really important thing. And I love how you term it as digital real estate, because we all need it, because people are searching for us.
It's the best investment you can make. And you also highlighted something there I think is really important, Sid. And this is something I mentioned. I had been really carving out this digital real estate around the Awesome Dad Show, about parenting, about fatherhood. But when I recognized that it wasn't lining up with my exact goal, again, the show is still out there and I'm actually still producing, but as soon as I recognized that that's not what I wanted my digital real estate to look like, that's when I shifted. So now really what I want when they think of Mark Savant is I want them to think better content, less time, better content, less time. So anyone that understands the power of digital media, as soon as they recognize what Mark Savant Media does, what I do, it's help create better content in less time. So I think if for anyone out there that's wondering, like, I do want to be more involved in making a show or business or digital media, it revolves around this. Create the type of content that you want to be known for. Let's repeat that one more time for everyone that's driving or maybe a little distracted. When it comes to social media, make content based on what you want to be known for. That is the key. That is the key.
Dude, that is absolutely amazing advice. And hit the back button a couple of times. Hear him say it again twice, guys, because it's really, really good advice. And create the content that you want to be known for. Yeah. So, Mark, what actually, like, when you were going through college and kind of setting, like, you had this vision of what you wanted to do, get married, have kids, live in Florida, was digital presence and doing digital media ever part of that vision?
Certainly not. And I think we can all look back and rue past decisions. So when I went to college for business, I could give you a whole story about my crazy life and the mistakes that I've made, but I did eventually graduate from Florida Atlantic University. It took a while to get there, but we got.
Okay. I got time yet. How many years let's compare notes. How many years did it take?
Well, I graduated from high school in 01 and I got my bachelor's degree in 09. So we did it like kind of like this thing. But I will say that, and I give my wife a lot of credit for this, I think that it's really important that we as individuals, as entrepreneurs as well, we recognize our strengths and our weaknesses. Yep. And surrounding yourself with people that can maybe call out your weaknesses or help you shore up your weaknesses is really important. So I do credit my wife a lot for helping steer me onto a track, for helping me shore up those weaknesses. And honestly, a lot of times it's been hard, and I don't necessarily want to hear everything she has to say, but I think it's important that we have people around us that are willing to tell us this isn't trending, right? You need to.
Yeah, 100%. So I'll answer the question. It took me 6 years to get through college, so I totally get it. It's not like they lead you to believe it's like, okay, you do this, and then 4 years later you got this degree, and then you start this, and then you do that, and it didn't work that way.
Well, and so what happened, by the way, Sid, when I was graduated from college, I was looking at the different job opportunities, quote unquote, that the counseling system or whatever was trying to line me up with, and I was like, nothing looks that interesting. And so to answer your original question, doing digital media, doing what I'm doing now, I never would have guessed 10 years ago, although I wish I would have. But hindsight's 2020. The best time to start was yesterday. The second best time is today.
Absolutely.
Just don't wait.
Yeah, 100%. All right. So Mark, one of the questions I ask all the guests that come onto the show is, what makes you an amazing entrepreneur?
What makes me an amazing entrepreneur? Well, that's a good question. I think what makes me an amazing entrepreneur is being grateful for every single client that I get to work with, being grateful for the hours that my team puts in, being grateful for the support systems that I have around me. Often I get this question fairly regularly. People say, Mark, I see you on YouTube several times a week. You're on Instagram. You're hosting Clubhouse rooms. You've got this podcast. You are everywhere. You keep showing up in my timeline. How do you do it? And the answer is pretty simple. I'm empowering others around me to do something that they're good at and that they enjoy doing. And for me, I think that's really what I've been really focused on, is how can I create these systems around me that help the people around me just be empowered to be their best selves.
Mark, that is the sign of a fantastic leader. Okay. An amazing leader is empowering your team to do what they do best and thrive, and to support you and the growth of your business. I see so many leaders that don't do that, I call that leading from the back and really empowering your team. You've hired them for a reason, whether they're direct employees or contractors. You've hired them for a reason. You've got to empower them, and you've got to lead from the back and let them do their job rather than lead from the front and tell them what to do every step away and solve every problem for them. You got to empower them to do it. So, man, I love that. That's awesome. All right. So, Mark, I want to move on to what I kind of call the power of three. So we've got 3 questions here I want to ask you. And we ask the same question to all 3, are all amazing entrepreneurs that come onto the show. Okay. So the first question is, what has been your biggest challenge and how did you overcome it?
What has been my biggest challenge? So I think one of the biggest challenges that I've had, Sid, is maybe underestimating how difficult it actually is to build something from nothing. we live in this day and age where everybody has hashtag entrepreneur in their Instagram bio. And you just get, when you get into this type of space, you keep getting inundated with people in front of nice cars and hotels and pretty girls and all this stuff. And it kind of leads you to believe that like, this probably isn't that hard. I just run some Facebook ads against my t-shirt page and I'm going to sell a bunch of t-shirts. Right. And that was kind of my mentality at first. I was like, I'm just going to build a brand for dads. I'm going to sell t-shirts and that's going to work. And, I made, a couple $100 and I'm like, okay, now what? This is not. So I think for me, the greatest challenge was kind of accepting that like, this is going to be tough. It's going to be very tough. And I'm just going to take each hit on the chin and keep improving. And, I kind of ebb and flow. I just want to give a quick shout out to Gary Vaynerchuk again. I ebb and flow with the creators and the shows that I listen to, right? I ebb and flow with the type of accounts that I follow and that I like, because it's really easy to get caught up in liking videos that are fun to watch, but aren't actually productive. They're actually not helping you move the needle. And so just as an example, I was at the beginning of my journey, I was listening to a lot of Gary Vaynerchuk. He's very inspirational. Hard work pays off, et cetera, et cetera. But then I went through this phase where, okay, I've got the mindset. Now I got to execute. And now I'm kind of getting to this phase now where the business is starting to go from a crawling to a walking stage, which is a really exciting time. But now I'm needing that motivation to kind of like figure things out and solve these problems that are just popping up all over the place. So to answer your question, I think that commitment to bringing in the right type of information, the right type of input is important to executing a good output.
Well, there is something to be said for over contenting ourselves and consuming too much content, as well as consuming the wrong content.
You had something there. I just want to quote Dragon, who's another host of our 10 a.m. Saturday morning Clubhouse room. Grow your podcast, by the way. Join the 10 a.m. Clubhouse room. Grow your podcast. But Dragon said something the other day that I thought was great. He said, "Education without action is just a distraction. Education without action is just a distraction." So you can read all the books you like, but if you're not executing, what's the point?
Absolutely, 100%. And I love the fact that, because I think we all do this, underestimating how difficult the journey is and all the different things along the way. I know I did. And, my business started a little bit differently, where I left an industry that I had been in my entire career. I was pretty well known. And then I started a business. Now, I wasn't very strategic. I jumped off a cliff. I had no safety net, took a couple of months off, didn't know what I was going to do. And all of a sudden I started a business, and we got really, really busy really quickly. And I had to learn a lot of things the hard way about managing resources, managing time. And I thought it was going to be easy, man. I thought like turn the lights on and here we go. And the money's going to start rolling in. So it doesn't work that way.
Well, it's also probably hard on your partner, your spouse, because you're putting a lot of stress on them. They've been used to, okay, once a week, we're getting this paycheck every 2 weeks, but now it's like, figure it out.
Yeah.
So that's something I'm going through now as I try to make that leap from walking to running, is how to make sure that
Absolutely.
That everyone's on board.
Yeah. Well, fortunately for me, my wife is very understanding and very supportive. My kids are too. So that's a lot of fun to be able to, have them here where we can talk about it. And honestly, I really like to share episodes with them, especially something that I think that whether I'm recording it or I'm being interviewed, that I think they could learn from. So it's a lot of fun with that. All right, Mark, let's go on to the next question. What do you believe are 3 qualities of successful entrepreneurs?
So 3 qualities of a successful entrepreneur. I think curiosity is very important. And for obvious reasons, we're going through a really crazy time, but you need to be curious. You need to be curious about, what do my customers want? How can I serve them? What's the new innovation, the new technology? It also, I think, helps with the second most important key, which is perseverance, because, things are not always going to be going good in your business, right? There are ebbs and flows. And so I wouldn't say this does not get talked about enough. Every single day that goes by, there are doubts that go through my mind, doubts saying, this isn't working. Why am I spending the time? I expected this to get more downloads or whatever, like every single day. So the second one, perseverance, is really important, right? Very, very important. And then I think the third most important feature of an entrepreneur is vision, or the ability to create a vision for those around you. And, we talked a little bit earlier in this episode about being a leader and empowering others, which I think is really important. But I believe that more so than your team's skills and whatnot, it's, do they share the vision? Is you as the entrepreneur, is this the tip of the spear? Are you able to create a vision that people are attracted to and can get on board with? Because with no vision, people will always leave you for another carrot that's out there.
Yeah, it's one thing to share the vision with the people that are around you. It's another thing for them to believe in it.
Sure.
And to get on board with our vision and where we see the company. A lot of time that's communication. We're not communicating it correctly. But a lot of times I think there's a lot of lack of clarity with entrepreneurs about what their vision is. I hosted a Clubhouse room a couple of weeks ago. We talked about vision, and I was honestly really surprised at the number of entrepreneurs that came up on stage that could not clearly articulate their vision. So
Yeah.
It's a really great point, but I also love the other two, curiosity, because curiosity is going to lead you to potentially the next level or the next service or the next product that you need to do. If you're curious with your ideal customer, if you're talking to them, you're listening to them, if you're curious, they're going to tell you what they want and what they need. And then perseverance, stay strong. Dude, I appreciate the fact that you said that little devil is in your ear and in your head every day, because it happens to me. And I know every entrepreneur listening to that hears those negative thoughts and I'm not good enough. This isn't working. Why did I do this on a daily basis? And mindset control, or, controlling our own mindset is one of the most, in my opinion, one of the biggest challenges that entrepreneurs face.
100%. And it's one of those things too, where like everyone knows it to be true. Everyone experiences it, but nobody's willing to talk about it because it's a sign of weakness.
Yeah.
But I think that I think it's a strength. I was going out trick-or-treating with my kids the other day, and while everyone's talking about candy and dressing up and scary and this and that, by the way, we got 3 full candy bars, which was crazy. That never happens. But, and beer, they were giving away beer at some of these places.
Adults trick-or-treating.
Exactly. So anyway, it was really cool. And everyone's thinking about party this. All I could think about was my clients and my team the whole time. And, it's what we sign up for. And to me, it's something that empowers me too. It's empowering to me to know that I have that, that kind of that stress, that perseverance, the bottom rung of the perseverance. And I think that's a big part of being an entrepreneur, again, is saying that, I get through tough times. I shut out that devil on the shoulder. I persevere. I don't know.
We have to. We have a message. We have a voice. We have a mission. And there are people out there that need it and need to hear it. And they need us. And so we have to keep going, but it happens and every entrepreneur experiences it. So Mark, I want to ask you the next question, which is, what's the most unexpected idea that you've had and how did it impact your company? Kind of like that curiosity that you just mentioned.
Unexpected idea. Well, I wouldn't say this is necessarily unexpected, but it's something that me and my team rolled out like very, very quickly. I've been running a consulting / service-based business for, I don't know, about almost a year at this point. And I'm looking for a way to kind of build a business that's going to meet my lifestyle. And if you go all in on services, it can be a big headache because you have tons of team members, tons of clients, a lot of moving pieces. It can be a bit of a headache. So I said, I still want to do this. I still want to have a service-based option for people that are a good fit, for brands that are a good fit. But I also want to create this educational platform that I've been growing out on my YouTube channel and the podcast. So I said, we're going to run a group workshop, right? Because I want to continue to educate these people. I want to help people that maybe can't afford, $500 to $1,000 for a session, right? But they want to be helped. So anyway, I said to the team, guys, girls, dogs, cats, ladies and gentlemen, we are going to run a group session and we're going to talk about how to create better content in less time. And I'm just going to walk people through getting clear on your message all the way to getting clients through social media, like the whole loop. It was very ambitious. There was a lot to it. And so we launched the group program in 3 weeks and we got 4 members. So it wasn't a huge turnout, but I strategically made it in a way where I wanted the dollar sign up to be large enough that we wouldn't have distractions in there, but low enough that someone that was serious could afford it. So we got 4 people in there, 3 of which I'm working with still pretty regularly and keeping up communications with, but another who actually had such a good experience that I'm actually running the services for his show now. And
Nice.
so it's kind of opened up into this way of finding, rolling out this group platform not only gave me a way to start generating more education and more income from a group teaching standpoint, but also creates very brilliant, well-qualified leads for the service business as well. So that was kind of an interesting thing that I didn't expect necessarily, but rolled out.
Are you still doing the group, Mark? The group sessions?
The last group session ended 3 weeks ago. I will be rolling out future sessions. We're looking at January is probably the next group session. I don't know exactly when, but it's coming. It's coming soon. I can definitely keep you updated.
Please do. And we'll drop the link to your website in the show notes as well, so people can check out and follow you there as well. So, and I'm sure you're going to announce it on social and stuff like that.
Oh yeah.
Ready. Okay. All right. So Mark, what 3 tips would you give to entrepreneurs from your personal experience that will help others along their journey?
Well, okay. So my thesis is if you don't have a digital media presence, you're trending the wrong direction. You're not going to exist pretty soon. So it's really important that you learn how to create content. You learn how to communicate with people via these digital media platforms, whether that's YouTube, Clubhouse, a podcast, Instagram TV, whatever it is, blog. You need to be able to communicate with people using digital media. And so the first thing I think that's important is hit record, like right now. Like as soon as this episode's done, hit record and start creating. It's not going to be very good at first, but if you don't hit record, it's never going to happen. So that's I think the first piece of advice. If you want to be relevant on digital media, you just got to hit record and see where it goes. Okay. The second would be failures are only a failure if you don't learn from them. Right. So with every piece of content that gets 0 downloads or nobody cares about, or you get trolled, or some random person in Serbia leaves a code on your YouTube comments, learn from that. How can I do this a little bit better? Right. And then C would be create systems so that you can remove yourself from as many processes as possible. Right. So I know I could riff for like an hour on each of these topics. But I think that's also an important one is hit record, learn what works and doesn't work, and then create systems so you can start outsourcing the stuff that maybe you don't have to be doing. It's time consuming, you don't enjoy.
Yeah, there's so much to be said there. I love hit record. Just do it. Start. If you go back to the first episode of my first podcast, which is still running today, we still post episodes every week. Yeah, don't go listen to the first 5. It was as jinky, as awful as it possibly get. Mark, the trailer episode, here's the reference for you. I recorded it on Anchor on my laptop, which we don't use Anchor anymore, but I recorded it on my laptop. I didn't have a microphone, and I had pillows all around.
Nice.
Because I thought I needed pillows to soften the sound of it. Because I'd watched how to podcast on YouTube. And so I watched like an hour's worth of video, and so, okay, I'm ready to go. Anchor was what they recommended. And so off to the races. So if you go back and you listen to, we launched episode 79 this week on the Trend Report. So if you go back to episode 1 through 10, yeah, they were pretty awful. So don't go do that.
I just want to point this out, Sid, that one of the things that you can do, and I'd probably recommend considering, is you can always re-record your first episode. And I think that over time, as we talked about, as you learn more about your show, your brand, you get more clarity. I think it's a really good idea to consider going back to episode 1 and rebranding it, re-recording it, because episode 1 is still one of my most popular episodes. People go back and listen to it when they.
Oh, that's great. That's a great tip. Actually, I really like that. I'm gonna have to go back, and I don't even remember what episode 1 was, but I'll go back now and check it out because it seems so long ago. It was over a year ago, so I'll check it out. And then failure equals learning. Dude, that's a great tip. It's my philosophy too. If you don't get the results you wanted, you got the lesson that you needed, as long as you're paying attention to the lesson. Okay. And so that's really important. And then creating systems, man, that's a hard thing to learn, to take yourself out of it, because as entrepreneurs, we tend to have this philosophy that, everything's got to revolve around us. But When it does, you become the bottleneck in your business. You become the thing that stops your business from growing. So outsourcing is one of the most difficult things, but also one of the best things that you could ever do. And I started with the VA. She's still with me 3 years later.
And that, I mean, it's a hard jump to make to hire your first assistant, but it improves your quality of life so tremendously. It's hard for me to explain how liberating it is to know that when I go to sleep on a Tuesday night, that I'm going to have my Instagram stories taken care of, my podcast is good, everything's being promoted. There were too many nights, Sid, where I would lay down in bed, I close my eyes, getting ready to relax, and then I just open my eyes, I go, oh, I didn't post my Instagram story today. I need to do that. Done. I'm done with that. And it is so liberating. And that's a big part of what I do now. Even if I don't do full-based services, I can come into a company or a coach or a business owner that's saying, hey, I know I need to do this. I'm just not sure how to set up the systems. I'd rather have someone come in and help build that out rather than take the next 3 years of my life trying to figure it out. And that's a big part of what I do as well.
Okay, that's awesome. I appreciate you sharing that. All right, Mark, we're ready to wrap up. I've got 3 random questions from you. I've got a deck of cards here. I've been shuffling them, and I'll shuffle them one more time. You probably can't hear it, but I'll shuffle them one more time. And I'm going to ask you 3 random questions. Hopefully these are good questions. I'm going to pull them randomly from the deck. Okay. You ready?
Right. Let's do it.
All right. So I'm just going to pull the one right off the top. I have no idea what it says. Let's hope it's a good one. What is something you love that is vintage?
What is something that I love that is vintage? I really like, I mean, I'm going to geek out here and nerd out for a little bit, but I have a collection of very old Magic the Gathering trading cards, like OG cards from some of the first sets, the shows, or the trading card game I started playing when I was like 10 years old. And there's that sense of nostalgia that comes from it. And also another thing, we didn't even get into this, and this is not financial advice, but inflation is a real thing. And I think that having some of your portfolio or collect in these non-replicable assets like old trading cards and so on and so forth, Bitcoin maybe even, is a valuable thing. So that's something that I own that's vintage that is actually like 10x in value over the past 5 years. So it's pretty cool.
And what kind of trading card is it?
These are called Magic the Gathering cards.
I have never heard.
They're playing cards. They were like Pokemon before Pokemon was even thought up, right? They're big. I don't know. They're the original, I think, playing card game.
I'm gonna have to look them up. All right, you ready for question number 2?
Let's do it.
So, Mark, where do you go when you need to blow off some steam?
Great question. We talked about perseverance earlier, and blowing off steam is a big part of perseverance. I like to exercise. So there's 2 things I like to do. One is exercise. I like to go jogging. I live right next to a great park. And so I'll just throw on a good podcast I want to listen to, and I'll go jogging for a few miles, and then sleep. I mean, I know that's not really going somewhere, but if I'm really stressed out and I don't know what to do and I'm confused, I write down a list of 3 things I'm going to do the next day, and I just take a nap. I go to sleep.
Taking naps is a great thing. And I'm really surprised, given where you live, that you didn't say go take a walk on the beach.
That, and we talk about long-term goals. It is one of my goals before I die to have a place on the beach. A place on the beach where in the mornings I could go out, I could take a jog on the beach in the morning. That is one of my goals. So
that's an awesome goal. I love it. All right, last question. Let's see what this one is. Would you accept a fatal mission in exchange for a lifetime of support for your family? So it's an interesting question, Poddex.
No way, not a chance.
Okay, great. All right,
go
ahead.
Yeah, listen, like I said, I believe in the power of fathers so much. Not mothers. I don't want to throw you under the bus, but mothers are amazing. My wife is amazing, but fathers, I just think we play such a vital, important, formative role in our children's lives, in our spouses' lives, in our communities, that, a lifetime of support without me would actually not be a lifetime of support. And I don't want to say that like in a selfish manner. I just think that, fathers, you cannot sell yourself short you are incredibly, incredibly important to your children and spouses.
That is a great message, my friend. I really appreciate you saying that. All right. I got a bonus question because that one was really short. So I got one more. All right. What's the biggest lie you once believed was true?
Wow, I'm really thinking over this one because there's so much crazy information going on. I think the biggest lie that that I believed, and maybe it was true when it was originally being told, but it's maybe not as true now. So maybe that's why my decision changed on it. But I think one of the biggest lies that I had heard was that as long as you go through school, as long as you graduate college, your life will be okay. You're going to be set. You know, you're going to get the white picket fence. You're going to have the kids, the dog. And I think that for a time that was true, you know, but I don't think that's true anymore. I think that we're moving away from the university education style economy into this creator, what can you do for me today type of economy. And if you're able to put in the work, if you're able to build this digital real estate, that is going to be far more valuable than a master's degree from a college. Not even close.
100%. 100%. I mean, there's nothing for me to add there because that is so on point. So thank you for sharing that. So Mark, we're at the end of the episode, man. And what a great conversation it's been. You've shared a lot of amazing insights. The one thing you haven't mentioned is the After Hours Entrepreneur podcast, which I'm going to give you a second. Pitch that podcast. Tell us what it is. I'm an avid listener of it. I think I discovered you first on Clubhouse. Then I started listening to the podcast, and then I started joining you, co-moderating that Saturday room with you. So tell us about the After Hours Entrepreneur.
The After Hours Entrepreneur is a show you can listen to on your favorite podcast player. It's designed to help you create better content in less time and turn that attention into income. And I bring on experts from various fields, whether it's podcasting, YouTube, branding, business systems. I bring on all the experts that are helping me move the needle on my business. I bring them in to pick their brain and make it relevant to you, so you can continue to build up this digital real estate and create better content in less time.
Dude, that's awesome. Thank you for sharing that, Mark. And if our community would like to get in touch with you, what's the best way for them to do that? Where should they follow you, or where should they connect with you at?
You can find Mark Savant. You can find Mark Savant Media all over the place. And that's, again, what I do. You type in Mark Savant Media, you'll find me. But probably the best place to connect with me is on Instagram. Go to Instagram at Mark Savant Media and DM me code word Sid. I want to know where you came from. So go to at Mark Savant Media on Instagram, code word Sid.
Dude, I like that. I'm going to start using that tactic right there. That's a great, see, we get tips even at the end of the show, Mark. Thank you for being here, man. I appreciate you very much. It's been a pleasure to have you on, and go out there and make today great. Okay.
Pleasure's all mine, Sid. Thank you.
Take care, buddy.